to keep my eye on the clock because when I start class, it usually goes for an hour and 15 minutes from 7:30 in the evening to about 8:45. And I just don't think, without getting the credits, you're going to put up with it. My name's Randy Gordon. I am the senator in the 41st Legislative District. And that district is the district that you're looking at right now, out your window. That's Mercer Island, Bellevue, downtown, all the way down to the south end of Mercer Island, across to Renton, just above the landing. Over there, across Newcastle, and those first row of hills to the western boundary of Issaquah. And I know this because I've walked most of it within the last few months. I'm going to continue to walk wearing these very shoes today. So I think that it's very important for me to introduce myself in a different way because I came to this job in a different way. I was appointed to the state senate on January 11th, which to my understanding, and then I was sworn in the very next day, second day of session. Now I went there largely because, as Richard has alluded, for too many years I've been telling my students about the importance of public service. And when given an opportunity to get an appointment to the state senate, I put my name forward. I was one of 6 candidates, and I was appointed by the King County Council to take over for Senator Fred Jarrett when Senator Jarrett went on to become the #2 man in King County when he became our deputy King County executive under Dow Constance. So when Fred went up, there was this vacancy. I talked about public service, I put my name forward, and having gotten the appointment, well, there's not too many ways I could hold my head up to my students. If I said, well, it's inconvenient, the commute's really not too good, because instead of going from Bellevue to Bellevue, now I had to go from Bellevue down to Olympia every day. Now a lot of people say, well, wasn't that commute hard? Well, it wasn't hard working in this kind of financial environment. Was it hard to be in Olympia during these times? I want to tell you, these are the times that you want to be in Olympia. These are the times where it takes qualities of discernment and judgment to be in Olympia. These are the times where leadership is most important in Olympia. You know, if you want to know about navigating in rough times, who do you want to have? The captain of the Titanic or the master of a vessel in the Hawaiian Island cruise line? You need to know rough times. You need to be able to handle those rough times. So I'm here to tell you that I've gone there appointed with a will to work and to get to work, and no one has the hooks into me. And if I may be honest about it, the commute's not bad if you have parents on the East Coast because, you know, in the early morning when you're driving down, you can get on the hands-free phone now, right? You can get on the hands-free phone, and I speak to my folks for about an hour, and I see the Capitol Dome coming up, and I say, well, Mom, well, Dad, it's time for me to get to work for the people. And that's what I do every day. So I had a great experience down in Olympia, and I was amazed to discover a lot of things. It was like a crash course in learning all of those things that all too often we have let others handle for us. And you know what I mean. You know what I mean. We're citizens, we take care of our families, we are dealing with our local neighborhoods, with our businesses, and that's enough. That's all. The Almighty in His infinite wisdom has not created cheetahs that run 500 miles an hour to catch that slowest impala. You're just fast enough to get that slowest impala. And we are just fast enough and just strong enough to deal with the challenges of our lives. It's difficult to go and take on not only those challenges, but the challenges of an entire state. So I was at a time in my life where my kids have graduated from college, which is not to say they're necessarily not still writing for money. So I think the next check's issued tonight. But in any case, so I went down to Olympia with a will to work. And I did have a background not only as a law professor for the last 11 years at Seattle University, but also as a practicing lawyer and having my own law firm and having my own 10 employees and paying B&O taxes and understanding what it feels like to have a B&O surcharge. And so like many of you, one of the first things I did when I went down to Olympia was to go and find out how come I'm paying a B&O tax and Coca-Cola isn't. I don't mind paying taxes. None of us mind paying taxes, but we like the idea of it being equitably distributed so that small businesses and startups don't bear that unfair burden, while the big boys go and they bring in their lobbyists, and with $24,000 and 3 months of lobbyists, you could go and get your own tax exemption. Well, I was done with that. So I was seen wandering around Olympia with a phone book called the Tax Exemptions 2008 from the Department of Revenue. You can get it from the Department of Revenue. And I went through it, and my staff, we went through it tabbing to find every single special interest that had gotten a special tax preference. Let me be clear what I mean by tax preference. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. The ones that are bad we call loopholes. But when you have 580 tax preferences for tree trimming, for out-of-state banking companies, for aluminum smelters, for coal-burning power plants, for carbonated beverage syrup manufacturers, and I could go on, but 580 of those, some of them have outlived their usefulness. One of them, I co-sponsored a bill to close, a bill involving, and let me be clear, why close it? Simple. Because if a tax preference has outlived its usefulness, then the taxes those guys aren't paying, we're paying. Because last time I looked, I didn't have a lobbyist down in Olympia. I'm the lobbyist for the people down in Olympia. I'm the guy who's supposed to be lobbying for the interests of every single person who doesn't have a paid lobbyist. Because I'm the representative of the people. So I went down and I wanted to go and close this coal-burning power plant. Now, just a little brief story. I'm one of the 580. I could go through more, but I won't trouble you. I'll just go through two. Coal-burning power plant, Centralia. It had been a Washington company employing about 750 Washington coal miners. You know, the whole east side is laden with coal. Newcastle, coal tap, and all the way down, you know. And Centralia, coal. So they've been Washington miners mining Washington coal and employing people for a Washington company. Now it's a out-of-state company. I think they in fact be a Canadian company. All those 750 coal miners have been terminated, and now they import their coal from Wyoming and Montana. So you'd think they should give back that tax preference. How many people here think that tax preference has outlived its usefulness? Okay. Well, I co-sponsored a bill to close that. It went through the Senate, fine, and well, something happened on the other side of the Capitol, and we'll work on that again. That's that story. But the main thing is you see the direction I'm heading in. Tax preferences need to be examined. They need to be transparent. We have tax exemptions that benefit 3 and fewer companies. And under tax laws, if you benefit 3 or fewer companies, the public doesn't get to know who the recipients are. Well, you'll forgive me for saying, I'll be damned if the state's going to be giving up our money to some special interest, and I don't know who they are and how much they're getting. Sorry, transparency is the key. Accountability, again, if you say you need this money because you're creating jobs, I'd like to see those jobs. And if I don't see those jobs, I'd like that tax exemption to dry up and go away and blow away with the wind, and then take that money and keep it for the people. Now, how much money is in these tax exemptions? You'll be astounded to know how much. You won't believe how much. And it's a little misleading if I tell you how much. But I'll tell you anyway, and then I'll explain why it's misleading.
How much?
Thank you. $98 billion. Now, hold on a second. You don't want to close all of those tax exemptions. Some of those tax exemptions we like. Some of them deal with religious institutions. Some of them deal with intangible property. Some of them deal with all sorts of things we want to keep. But if you're a conservative guy, you can go and find a few $100 million in there for the people. And I'm intent this session, if permitted to do so, to rouse that money out of there and give it back to us. Before we raise any pennies of taxes, I want to make sure the taxes are being charged fairly, end of story. Story number 2, carbonated beverage syrup manufacturers. Now, carbonated beverage syrup, corn, you know, is not good for you. Everyone knows this, not good for you. We have an obesity problem, not good for you. It comes in plastic bottles that are also not good for us, but that's another matter. Carbonated beverage syrup manufacturers, in 2007, they had a 25% tax, B&O tax credit. That means against their B&O tax, it's 25% off. 2008, 50%, 2009, 75%, and this year, a 100% B&O tax credit. So let me see if I can show you the problem here. The amount of taxes that Coca-Cola is paying over the last 4 years looks like this. The amount of debt the state is getting into looks like this. I'd like to know why, when we're all sliding into this terrible pit of billions of dollars of shortfall, we can't seem to find the will to have Coca-Cola paying what it paid, forgive me, I'm an extremist, what they paid last year. 75%. Now that's what I want to talk about that issue. But that's not the only thing we were down there. Because, you know, I went down there, again, fresh eyes. I went behind the curtains, the new guy, don't look behind that curtain. You don't want to know what's back there. So I looked behind the curtain. And I saw all sorts of stuff like that. And we have some good people there. Senator Klein right here, Senator Rockefeller, and I are going to be taking a look at these issues to try to go and make it fairer for the people. End of story. Now, let's shift the scene. I'm a law school professor. I'm the only practicing lawyer. I think that's a fair statement, isn't it? Because Adam's senior to me, wrapped up his practice for you. I'm the only practicing lawyer and the only 3 people with legal education in the state Senate. So after the Lakewood shootings late last year, we had to be concerned about how bail was being issued. How are people getting bail? And Adam is right now heading up a task force to take a look at that. But I want to talk about what the new kid on the block was able to do, showing up with a goodwill, with an eye towards trying to protect the people.
And Professor Klein, before you carry on, I do have another class to get to in about 2 minutes.
Right. So. Okay. Well, this is about a constitutional amendment that's going to be on your ballot November. Or you'll get it in the mail a few weeks earlier, right? So what's going to happen is we now have an ability, judges, instead of having to give bail to repeat offenders, instead of having to give bail and then hope the person doesn't make it, what they can do instead is they can deny bail if the person has a history of if he has a propensity for violence by clear evidence and a substantial likelihood of danger to the public. So we don't have to return serial rapists back out to the community and see what kind of, let's do that experiment again. No, we don't need to. We're done with that experimenting on our communities. Now, I wrote the core language to that amendment. I am so proud that here I am, a new guy coming in, and for the 3rd time in state history, we're altering the criminal law provisions of our state constitution in a way that updates it to protect our communities consistent with our civil liberties. So those are some of the things I've done that I'm focused on, that I'm interested in. I'm also, my first bill was an early education bill, the early support for infants and toddlers, and I was the 25th vote on the budget, I think, trying to go and get our state to work so that we live within our means, but we keep in place those things we hold dear. For this simple principle, I'll close with this. Because when the temperature in your house drops a few degrees, you put on a sweater. You do not chop up all your furniture and throw it in the fireplace. You need to be level-headed in these hard times, and you need to go preserve the things we need to keep our communities going. We're one of 48 states going through these hard times. That's what I'm going to do. I have a level head. I'm going in there. I'm going to fix things in a fair way for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, you opened up with the Titanic and a crash, and I was getting concerned, but you closed rather well. It looks like there was a question before you stepped down, Senator Klein?
Yeah.
Say a word about that.
I was interested in how consistent that original language you had in the bail bill was until now. From the time you originally put your language in there for the exact purpose that you had, how much has that language changed?
Well, much to my amazement and fear, almost everything I wrote ended up at the heart of the amendment. What I said originally was that upon a showing of clear, cogent, and convincing evidence of a propensity for violence, and the final version reads, upon a showing of clear, convincing evidence of a propensity for violence. Then I said, and a imminent danger to the public, and it ended up being in substantial likelihood of danger to the public or any person. So it's pretty simple.
I was just trying to see how Robert had ended up to see how it could be
And one last question,
Yes.
please, sir.
Yes.
The implementation of those bail provisions are all subject to a Superior Court judge. Is there any language in there to standardize the things that they actually look at to make those decisions? Otherwise, they have plans that nullify the bail system and put these people back out on the street through some monitoring program.
Well, the way we feel, and there's a safety provision the legislature put onto there, I should say, there's another sentence added on, that says that we can restrict limitations on the denial, we can further limit denials of bail. So in other words, if bail is denied in a wholesale way that seems to be incompetent, or frankly, let's face it, discriminatory, but we think that the clear and convincing evidence, which is the highest civil standard, which is backed up by case law, actually does engraft into the interpretation some fixed standards that judges can use. And we did devise this language working closely with our judges, with people of goodwill, who were interested in protecting our communities, not interested in willy-nilly increasing the population in the jail. So I think that we have a lot of reason to be hopeful that the interpretation, but you're exactly right, there will be an opportunity to review that and see how it works in practice.